Hey everyone, Anja here at ourgibbeldhome.com, and in this video I'm going to share with you one of our favorite winter recipes, and that is a classic Swiss cheese fondue. We love to eat it a lot during the winter, and it's a really fun meal that you can share with your family and your loved ones. So let me just talk about a few items that you might need, and I can also share with you what you can use if you don't have these items. So we love to use this, what is called a cachelon. It is a ceramic dish that is specific for making cheese fondue. And you can get this online. I am linking all the products that I'm using in this video so you can find them. And so this is what we use to make the cheese fondue. You can see that the coating has cracked a little bit because we've used it so much. But you can use any stainless steel pot, whatever you have, that will work just as fine. And if you want to do this at the table, you will need some heat source. I haven't tried using a little portable electric plate. We always use this one. It has a reservoir in here that you can fill up with, this goes on top with this fuel here that goes in there and keeps this going while you're sitting at the table and eating your cheese fondue. And then finally, we love to use these specific cheese fondue forks. You can use any fork you like. These are designed for cheese fondue. They're longer, so people can reach from across the table, and they're smaller, so you get your piece of bread and dip it into the cheese. This is what you need in terms of items specific for the cheese fondue. So now we'll talk about the actual ingredients for your cheese fondue. Obviously you need cheese, and you need a lot of cheese. I like a recipe, and this is something that I have done so many years, and it's just a family favorite. If you hear some noises here, that is dogs and cats walking in and out of the kitchen. The main cheese you'll need for cheese fondue is a Gruyere, and you can get this pretty easily here in the United States. And the second cheese that I like to use is a classic Emmentaler. This is the cheese that you're probably thinking of when you're hearing cheese, because it's the one with the big holes in it. And there is a cheese that I really like that is a little bit harder to get. It's called a Vacherin Friburgeois. Pardon my French. But it is sometimes a little bit hard to find, so that is why I like to use a Fontina, because it has a good flavor and it has a really low melting point. It's a very soft cheese. You need to use about 200 grams, which is about 7 ounces per person. And so you end up using about 1.5 pounds or so of cheese. And if the camera is moving, that is because we have these little kittens and they like to get into everything. So the next thing to make the cheese melt is white wine. I'm using about 300 milliliter of white wine. You don't want to use a heavy oaky Chardonnay. Something with a softer, not quite so bold taste will just work really well. Maybe you find a light French white wine. And then you will need some, I'm using potato starch. You can also use cornstarch. I have about 4 teaspoons in here. You will need a clove of garlic. And then the bread, we usually like 2 types of bread. We like a darker bread that's more like a country bread, and then we like a classic French baguette. And the first thing I always like to do is cut the bread in cubes. You want to make sure that the cubes are not too small. I'm going to show you the size that I think works fairly well. So this is a good size for cheese fondue cubes. And the next thing is to rub the cacalone with garlic. And for that, I simply cut the garlic clove in half and then take these 2 halves to rub out the cacalone. And if you're anything like us, I like to actually put the entire garlic clove in there. So I'm just gonna cut it in smaller pieces depending on how much you like garlic. We'll set that aside. Now we need to grate the cheese. You can either do this by hand, which is what I'm going to do, or if you have a kitchen processor, you can put the cheese in there. But I typically find that by the time I have to clean up all the kitchen processor, I'm just almost going to be as quick with this one. So I'm going to do it by hand. So at this point, my pot is already pretty full. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to start melting the cheese before I add more cheese, because as you'll see, the cheese will sink in, it won't stay quite this full. Now we'll start melting the cheese. We'll turn on the stove to about medium high and add the 300 milliliter of white wine. So this is going to take a while, and in Switzerland people tell you that you should only stir the cheese in one direction, not going like this and then this back and forth. So either like this or like a figure 8. I haven't figured out if there's any truth to it, but I kind of like it, and so that's what I'm going to do. So we'll just wait for the cheese to slowly melt. I've turned the heat to low because it was bubbling a little bit too much at the bottom. I don't want the cheese to burn, I just want it to melt. So you need to maybe adjust depending on your own stove. This cheese is already looking really good. And this is the moment when I am adding my potato starch and my Kirsch. You can also just use water, and I'm gonna stir it up one more time because it likes to sit at the bottom. And this will really help it bind, but it also needs to heat up, so it's going to take a moment, and then I can add the rest if I need to. And here you have it. Here is my yummy cheese fondue, which I am gonna enjoy with my family in just a moment. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. And if you're new on my channel, please hit the subscribe button. I upload a new video every week. Thank you so much for joining me in my kitchen, and I'll see you in the next video.